Okay, next we're gonna talk about tying in for a glacier, and we're gonna tie in for 4 people because that's how many are gonna be on our rope team. So the first thing that we wanna do is we wanna establish what length of our rope is. We're gonna use a 60-meter rope. 60 meters is considered adequate up to 4 people. And then we wanna get our spacing right. So there's a method called the 10- method. It's kind of a quick down and dirty way to do it, and it's just based on arm lengths. So it's 10 minus the number of people on your rope team. That number will be the number of arm lengths in between each climber. So for us, 60-meter rope, we're climbing with 4 people. We do 10 minus 4 equals 6. That's gonna be 6 arm lengths. We wanna find the middle point to start though, because we're actually gonna build our whole system off the middle. So unlike alpine climbing, where it's helpful to have your rope flaked from the end, when you're flaking your rope, to start to haul it up the mountain before we get to glacier travel, it's really helpful to just kind of flake it from the middle, because then we know that we're going to have to be in the middle anyway, so we're less likely to get all these knots and everything. All right, so we've got to the middle mark on my rope. So I'm gonna always try to do my spacing with both strands at the same time, because the reason for that is that way it kind of identifies the knots at the right spot, and it takes any variability. Maybe my arm length was kind of short on one strand, but it was too long in the other one. It's just gonna mess our spacing up a little bit, and have the same person on the team do it every time. For a trip like Rainier, most likely what we'll do is in the daylight, we'll get our rope set up the day before. That way, when it comes time to summit, you just throw on your Kiwi coils, clip in, all your spacing is done, because doing this in the dark is really no good. So we know that our first is gonna have to bridge the middle, so we're gonna do 3 arm lengths, and the reason is because that's gonna give us 3 arm lengths in between this middle part. So 1, 2, 3. That's the only one that we're gonna do 3 on. Each of these is gonna get an alpine butterfly. Remember, we tie an alpine butterfly around twice, and then this middle part is gonna come up through, and we pop it into place. It's 1 alpine butterfly. We'll do the same on the other strand. This will be what our 2 middle climbers attach in with. Now from each of these knots, we're gonna do 6. Because again, we did 3 on each side of the middle because we wanted to create 6, but now from each knot, we're gonna go 6, and that's gonna mark our end climbers. So again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This knot doesn't need to be anything crazy because we're actually gonna end up taking it out here in a second. We're just marking the spot. So we're just going to throw an overhand into each one. And now each end climber will work their way up into that knot that we just tied. So I'll find the end of the rope. We're going to do what's called a Kiwi coil. The reason that we Kiwi coil is because, it does 2 things for us. It allows us adjustability on the fly, and it also keeps all that rope nice and accessible for us. Say we need to transition into pitched climbing for whatever reason, you can coil it and throw it in your backpack. We did that in Nepal. It's a little cleaner, but remember that you lose the instant adjustability of having it coiled on your chest. So we're gonna throw a figure 8 into it. We're gonna tie in just like we would at the crag. Figure 8 follow through. Now we want to build our coils. We're gonna do that. We're gonna take this strand of rope. We're gonna come up around our neck on our right side with our thumb through our belay loop. We're gonna do that for sizing. If this is too tight, it kind of crunches us up. And if it's too loose, it falls off one or the other shoulder. Neither of those are any good. So we're gonna go thumb into the belay loop. And we're gonna flip it around our head, running in the same direction that we started. What I'm gonna do, once I get that spacing, I can take my thumb out and speed things up. We're gonna coil this until that overhand knot that we tied is at our feet. Perfect. Overhand's basically at my feet. Left arm goes through the coil so it sits on our chest. We can untie this. So right now, this is kind of no good because the rope isn't secured. If anything pulled on this, it's gonna constrict my chest. So we're gonna fix that. We're gonna take a bite of loop through our belay loop. I'm gonna pass my left hand underneath the coils, pull it back through. We're gonna tie an overhand knot, cinch it down, but because this can kind of get loose and it'll get looser throughout the day, we're gonna do a Swiss finish, which is just a half hitch. Pull towards me, then a way to lock it into place. Now this won't slip out and slide throughout the day and get looser. Now we have one more step, because this is fine, but if I were to hold a fall, I'm holding the fall on the coils, not my harness. We want to avoid that. So what I do is I take an arm length out. This becomes the top of my bite. And I'm just gonna do, you can do a figure 8 on a bite or an overhand on a bite. Either one is fine. We're gonna go into a carabiner. I prefer these anti-cross-loading carabiners for this purpose, because what we don't wanna do is throughout the day, this will be sort of loose. We don't want it to accidentally cross-load. If you don't have one of these, all we can do is we can make our bite a little bit bigger. We're just gonna throw a slip knot into the end of that, and then cinch that down. And that's gonna hopefully help prevent our carabiner from walking around. Now, if I were to hold a fall, I'm holding the fall on my harness, and then this loop will become, if we do have to arrest a crevasse fall and build a system, this carabiner here, or this loop rather, is what I'm gonna attach my pickets into before I come out of the system. So yeah, here we have it. We have 6 arm lengths. We can always confirm, but from this knot, it should be roughly 6 arm lengths. To our middles, 5, 6, boom. Then again, this will be one of our middle climbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's our second middle climber. And then our end climber is going to do the same exact Kiwi coil. Again, the reason that we have these coiled is that way we have all that excess rope to build that rescue system if we need to.